And we know that in agriculture it's absolutely important also to work on the microplastic, because plenty of plastic, microplastic can also can do pollution in agriculture. So we see that this topic also as a topic of common interest between blue and green. We have also we are working on artificial intelligence-based vision sensor, because we have to detect some quite advanced, complex issues, like, for instance, detecting harmful bloom or detecting biomass. We have, for instance, in the very, let's say, troubled waters, we have to detect, for instance, all the shrimp are growing, and this is because we feed the shrimp by the water. So water is quite dark and troubled. So we want to detect on that. So all the advance we have in detecting, let's say, small, so at the level of micron, for aquaculture can be obviously very important for the agriculture, and we see a lot of interest and movement on computer vision in agriculture, which can also provide a lot of, so can be looking at the leaves and maybe some disease in the leaves that we can, because today the cameras are so powerful that we can have a very big accuracy, and we can see really like a microscope, we can see very small events. So all the advance we have in aquaculture, we believe can be also useful in agriculture. We have also developed what we call the low-cost kit, and this low-cost is very important, because not only that we have a kit that you can deploy easily, like plug and play, because of thanks to long-distance communication, thanks to low energy that can be on solar panels. So, for instance, obviously, it is very important to deploy such, let's say, low-cost solution for aquaculture on fish farm. But also, we know this is a main issue in agriculture, because despite we have plenty of technology, the technology could be a little bit expensive, and also it could be quite complex to deploy Internet of Things and sensor, can be to measure soil or can be to measure many parameters in agriculture. So the experience we have in low-cost kit in aquaculture, and I think the technology is totally compatible with agriculture, can be also useful in agriculture and green. Then we have also a platform obviously to bring back the data to let's say to monitor and to visualize information. And also we have developed kind of advanced platform we call intelligent as a service offer. That means that not only the platform already have some advanced algorithms like AI algorithms are based on collected data, but can offer also these advanced algorithms to external data. So partners can maybe inject the data to this platform and also take the opportunity of this intelligence of the platform also to visualize. And we know by chance also this platform takes the state of the art of high-level platform, such as the platform provided by European project or European Foundation now, FIWARE. And also, so we know that in smart farm also FIWARE is also quite let's say promoted, and in some big projects FIWARE is promoted, and FIWARE is also used now in several European aquaculture related projects. So we see also some similarity, and that in the blue in some monitoring and advance we do in the blue that can be also useful to be shared in the green. In conclusion, we have many experience in Astral and Blue Challenge that can be work on the green challenges. We look also not only at the technical side, but also like what we call the environment, economic and social challenge. So we want to, as the fish farmers, also work in the better environment, also be having a good production, and also look at social challenge. We engage stakeholders. And we have already provided some analysis about alternate technology, and I encourage you to look at our survey, and in order to look at the solution and to look at a solution one by one with more details. So if you go to the website of the project, so astral-project.eu, and you dash solution, you will look at the detail of our solution, and you will be able also to give your opinion, because it is very important also to see whether you like the technology, whether you want to know more, and whether you want to apply, for instance, microplastic solution to your case. So we need also to get your feedback. So this my thank you for me. And you have here the name and the contact of the ASTRAL project, and also the name of Elisa Ravagan from North, who is coordinator of the project. Will also give you all the insight about the ASTRAL project. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Schulz. I'm the coordinator of the AlgaCycle project. This project is mainly implemented or is promoted by Necton in Portugal, and the main person that works on this is Ines Meyer, who is a PhD student at the University of Alga, one of the partners. And there is also a Norwegian partner, Nord University, and a research institution, NIBIO in Norway, involved in the project. And as well as the horticulture crop producer, who will a technology developer for agriculture, Fulgur. This work is funded by the EEA grants, and Ines Meyer is also additionally funded by the FCT, the Portuguese Science and Technology Foundation. I would start with the problem that we are all facing. So we know that the human population is foreseen to grow and is still growing until we reach a plateau somewhere in 2050 of 13 billion people. We have the problem that we have less and less fresh water available, or clean fresh water available. And we have another problem that we are facing is, of course, that we have discharge of nutrient-rich wastewaters at the moment from industries that contain a lot of nutrients. So from the agriculture industry, mainly for soilless crop production, this is called rainwater, and as I said, it's a waste product. Sorry. So what we need is basically a circular economy approach that is reusing those now considered waste streams and to introduce new products. A little bit more about hydroponics. So this is like the, probably it's most likely to become the most famous production system for crop plants. Because we have low water requirements, we have very good productivity and high quality of the crops produced. We have a very high nutrient usage, and we can build up these production systems on non-arable lands around the globe. Then we have from this soilless crop production, so 30% of the overall water consumption is basically discharged in forms of rainwater. So this rainwater is with a very high concentration of nutrients, and so the idea is to somehow reuse this 30% of the discharged volume. This is quite a lot considering the amount of greenhouses existent and still building up these days. So we can use this rainwater, for example, to produce microalgae and to produce to produce biomass as a novel feedstock for different applications. So about microalgae, you maybe know, but I will just give it a brief introduction. They use in phototrophic conditions carbon dioxide and inorganic nutrients to produce basically oxygen and biocompounds, if we break it down. And we can apply these biocompounds into different fields. For example, we can use them for food. We can introduce them in aqua feeds or animal or cattle feeds. So basically in feeds, also to replace unsustainable soybean or fish oil. We can use them high-value compounds, for example, for nutraceuticals, also in the food industry, to supplement, for example, vitamins through vegan foods or in this direction. We can also extract some compounds that act as biostimulants to grow again crops. So basically closing the cycle for horticulture. And one of the applications of microalgae themselves is basically to remediate contaminated water. So it's basically this that would close the loop for the horticulture. So this is exactly what the AlgaCycle project is basically focusing on, to implement a circular economy approach to upgrade those waste streams into value and tackling these environmental concerns. So, for example, the discharge of these nutrient-rich wastewaters into the environment while creating novel products for the market. So what we do, we take the drain water rich in nitrogen and phosphorus. We test different production systems. So we have green walls, for example, this like panel like photobioreactors, or more they're more intensive systems, and we're also trying to use some raceway ponds, which are more extensive systems. So meaning we have a high volume of water, low biomass concentration, or low volume of water with high biomass concentration. We harvest the biomass while we retreat recover the clean water by membrane filtration, which could then be reintroduced into the crop production at the greenhouse. We use the biomass fractionated into different streams. So we have a water aqueous phase that is used for biostimulants for crop production that is being reintroduced to the greenhouse. So here we're closing the loop. And we also have these residuals after fractionation of algae that is rich in fatty acids and proteins, and that is used for aqua feeds to replace soybean or fish oil, for example. That is to be tested in our research partner, Nord University in Bodø, Norway. We're growing crops all year around, and so we need to grow algae all year round. So in order to achieve this, we are using different strains. So one is the Sanidesmo strain that is used for summer production, and we're using a more cold-adapted microalgae called Yellow Antarctica that is then used for winter production. I have to say at this point also that the production takes place in Portugal, so we have mild winters and summers, and these strains were chosen according to their temperature profile. We have here some, we have here some production at lab scale. We test different nutrient concentration and different temperature profiles in order to find right cut-off point or switching point between the algae. We are scaling up to bigger bubble still indoor, and also water cultures using this kind of green walls, flat panel like systems that are called green walls. And we are even going further to implement it at industrial scale. So we are obtained from the greenhouse that are next to the microalgae producer Nectar. We obtain 20 cubic meters of drain water, and we are cultivating this algae on industrial scale. And we have produced so far 20 kilograms of dry weight for each of the both strains. We have successfully removed the nitrates and phosphorus from those waters. And we have also fractionated already the biomass into the aqueous and the solid phases. And we have also already formulated the aqua feeds for the aquaculture feeding trials. So this is something that is now ongoing. So EEA Meyer is now at Nord University implementing the feeding trials for salmon, and to use the aqueous phase to grow on to test the performance of crops. We first need to analyze the phytohormones, the extracts, before we are starting the experiment. But this experiment, the biostimulants, is to be expected to start early next year. So this is the AlgaCycle team. As I said, the project is promoted by Necton. I'm the coordinator. And if you want more information about the project, you can look it up at LinkedIn, hashtag AlgaCycle. And you can also check directly our homepage, www.algacycle.com, or send me an email through info@algacycle.com. So I'd like to thank you all for listening, and particularly also thanks to EEA Grants for making these projects and all involved parties. So thank you.
So I'm here to talk about a Horizon 2020 project called Sea to Land. It fits very nicely into this blue to green synergies, even in its title. And the main synergistic element here for sure in Sea to Land is the circularity element and the reuse of waste. Similar to AlgaCycle, but working in the marine domain where we're dealing with actually marine problems and solutions. So the development of this project, which started approximately 2 years ago, involved the mapping of nutrient imbalance and in Europe, and then the presentation of a solution to recover nutrients from both the fisheries and the aquaculture industries to help support the development of bio-based fertilizers to address these imbalances. So this would then involve different technological solutions to harness these nutrients, and then agronomic studies and quality assessments to assess their feasibility. Since the start of this project, of course, we've seen in Europe a massive increase in the cost of fertilizers, with chemical-based fertilizers not being produced with offline capacity, prices significantly increasing, and shifts of land use from farmers. So this topic has become increasingly relevant as the project's progressed. Now, Aquabiotech, which is my organization joining this project, we come from an aquaculture perspective rather than the aquaculture. And so we saw very clearly a problem here that up to 50% of the biomass from our fisheries and aquaculture processing and production during the harvest processing or production phase ends up as side streams rather than as food products. Some of these high quality side streams, they can be further processed into bioactive ingredients, and there's lots of very interesting projects on this topic. But some of the side streams, either because of their qualitative nature or because of our ability to preserve them, need other uses other than these high quality ingredients under a circular economy approach. Things such as shells, sludges, canning water from canning production. These were materials that are to date have actually been considered waste products rather than side streams. So sludge, one of the more interesting ones, is one of the solid wastes of aquaculture. And this is becoming an increasing problem, both for recirculating systems and pond systems, but also for land-based systems where they have to dispose of this waste. And now increasingly, we're seeing a trend even in ocean-based production to either enclosed or semi-enclosed production systems, which then means that this product made of uneaten feed and feces of the fish is being enclosed, which is great. And then we have the potential to process this into a usable product. There are a lot of legislations around this, whether what can and can't be released. And it's becoming more and more economically viable that people should valorize these products. So there are new regulations coming into effect with harmonized rules for organic fertilizers, and there's become a more regulatory acceptance that these products can start to be used for organic and non-organic farming in Europe. So at our current plant, which is a recirculating aquaculture facility located in Malta, we're collecting our solid waste sludge. This is from a marine production system, and separating out the solid and liquid fractionations. These are being, we're taking different technological approaches, and these are being filtered into different mechanisms, including use as a nutrient-rich concentrate coming from the liquid, and then mixing with other ingredients to create solid bio-based fertilizers that can be applied to land-based crops. So what we're seeing here is the important questions that we can synergize and combine forces on for aquaculture and agriculture. So the research challenges for aquaculture is how to increase the concentration of solids. Primarily the way that farms produce this waste, it has a very low solid concentration. And in order to become a useful material for bio-based fertilizers, we need to work on technological solutions that integrate seamlessly with farming practices and are easy to use by farming technicians. And we also need to work on training in those techniques to help our farms adjust. This has meant that we've been doing different research on optimization of filtration technology, flocculation use, coagulation use, and the integration of these into the production process. From a technological and logistics perspective, we've identified that on-site versus off-site treatment, it will provide an interesting challenge to synergize this circularity approach. Where to and how to optimize the drying and treatment processes, and how to source additional biomass locally, including bulking materials, which could be from other agricultural waste side streams, and combine these in our technological solutions to create these fertilizations with the qualitative characteristics that we need for the crops. From the agricultural perspective, there needs to be ongoing research on how to evaluate these products from an agronomic and economic and environmental performance perspective. We see that mineral fertilizers provide a much more predictable growth pattern, so there needs to be solutions to address this. We also are looking at research on how to discover which nutrients can be recovered, in what ratios and in what bioavailability. There is problems with liming effects and soil salinity over time using marine wastes that are being worked on, and also adjusting our techniques to different species and different landscape suitabilities. So this will be a solution for some crops and possibly not for others in all circumstances. Combined with this, the environmental, social and economic challenges to be overcome, and also this integration of regulation and compliance, which you see is constantly evolving at the moment, and we look to be a player in this. But the potential application of these fertilizers could significantly reduce farming costs for both the aquaculture farmers in their farming and sludge wastewater management, and for agricultural farmers who are looking for an alternative to what's becoming increasingly expensive chemical-based fertilizers. And bring these new opportunities to the market is going to require the collaboration of both industries. Thank you so much. You can learn more about the Sea to Land project. I'll put the website in the comments, and thank you so much.
Yeah, so hello everybody. Today I'd like to talk about our EU project where we're partnering in is iFishIENCi, and that is all about intelligent fish feeding and using or developing new enabling technologies and a circular principle. So when we're talking about these enabling technologies, that is has a lot to do with understanding better what the fish need and want, monitoring of what's happening in the fish rearing tanks, and then to use that knowledge and with a digitalization approach to get a better understanding of when a fish wants to be fed and needs to be fed, for example. It's all about, similar also to what Philippe has presented in ASTRAL, with the digitalisation technologies and also what Danny was talking about with Smart RAS. But today I really like to focus on the fourth aspect, which is the waste to value and the circular approach. Just short, the consortium consists of 16 partners from 8 different countries. And that's everything from aquaculture people, technology developers, research organizations on microalgae like myself. Many different aspects. So to start a bit in the beginning, aquaculture in Europe, there's various fish being produced. But as we can see in this graph, salmon is by far the one that is being produced the most in Europe. And Norway is again then the biggest contributor to this production. And in Norway, there is around 1.3 million tons of salmon and trout being produced yearly, currently. At the same time, with increasing numbers of people that need to be fed, Norway also has the ambitious vision that they would like to increase that production to 6.5 million tons in the future in 2050. At the same time, they also put there that it should not only increase, but it should increase in a sustainable way. So that means that there is quite a lot of issues that need to be dealt with. And that is things from like, if you need to produce more fish, you also need to produce or to source more feed ingredients. But it also is a bit about, for example, the waste that this fish produces. So if we talk about 1.3 million tons of fish being produced, that means that there's also 2.1 million tons of sludge coming from the production of that fish. And if we would grow in the future, that would mean that there's 11 million tons of sludge being produced. As we can see on the right, it's their fish are being cultivated in these can be cultivated in closed systems and open systems. On the right, we see open systems. And you don't see so much the fish, but at the same time, in these 14 fish tanks, there is around equal amount of biomass as 20,000 cows. So it is a significant amount of animals that are in these systems. And with that, there's also a lot of sludge that you might not see, but it's there. But there is quite a lot of monitoring ongoing to see what the effect is of those fish cages on the environment and ecosystems. And as you can see in the bottom graph here, this is checking the environmental conditions under cages from 2009 to 2021, and then the amount of cages where the conditions below those cages were either very good, the dark blue line on the top, good, and then there's also some places where the conditions are not so great or bad. So overall, in most places, it's still good or very good, luckily. But with the thought in mind that the amount of cages is going to, or the amount of fish production is going to increase, there will then also be the need to deal with the captured sludge to make sure that those conditions don't get worse. So there's quite a lot of focus on either in capturing the sludge from open systems that become slightly more closed or fully closed systems in sea, but also on land-based. So with that sludge, we do not just impact the ecosystems and the environment, but it also means that we lose a lot of valuable resources. Every year we lose to the sea more than 200,000 tons of carbon, 60,000 tons of nitrogen, and 14,000 tons of phosphorus. And if we would think about it from an energy point of view, the sludge from 1 million ton of salmon per year could generate somewhere between 70 and 190 million cubic meter of methane, and that would then relate to 0.7 to 2 terawatt hours of energy. The city there I live in, Bergen, used 2 terawatt hours in 2008-9. That's by now a bit more, but still it is a lot of energy that could be produced of stuff that's now just being lost. So in iFishIENCi, the idea is to have a look at how can we make it a more circular approach. Can we use the waste that is being generated by these fish, and can we use that, for example, for the production of algae or other microorganisms that in turn could then be a very interesting ingredient as a feed source. We have been testing different types of microalgae and other microorganisms, and we know that they are have a lot of potential as feed ingredient. But one of the questions is also, can we now grow them on these waste streams? And the first question is very much a technical question. Do they grow? What are the issues in doing so? And not yet would we be allowed so if we would do this at scale in a commercial way in terms of laws and etc. Well, Peter already went a bit into this. What are microalgae? Maybe to emphasize that the word algae is a very big word, and it's a bit like plants, but in a way more worse, in the sense that we have microalgae and macroalgae. Macroalgae are seaweeds, microalgae are the small stuff. There's no official definition, but in general, it's assumed that it's organisms that are not higher plants, so they don't have roots or leaves or whatever, but that they can use photosynthesis. And they grow everywhere where there's water. There can be freshwater, seawater, brackish water, glaciers, desert after the rain. And what we can see in the graph to the left is a so-called phylogenetic tree. So it organizes groups of organisms where they're mostly related. So as you can see, animals and land plants each follow in their group, and so they're relatively similar, whereas algae fall into all the different colored boxes. It also means that we as humans are in the same box as shrimp, and apparently more similar to each other than some microalgae are to each other. So it just really shows the variation that there is in these organisms, even though we use the term microalgae. So a bit more about the results in our project. We've been using the water coming from a RAS system, so that's recirculating aquaculture systems. And that was from the production of rainbow trout grown on different diets. And we used that water to see if we could grow microalgae. And then we tested both different pre-treatments, so either no pre-treatment or autoclaving, to make sure that there was no other organisms or possible contaminations. And we tested the addition of additional nutrients, and that was mainly phosphate and micronutrients. And this is just one of the many graphs that we have, but to give a bit of an example, what we can see is that in this case, Chlorella vulgaris, a freshwater microalgae, grew very well on almost all tested wastewater samples. There was the one that you can see in the bottom, that did not grow. And it actually did not grow when we did not use pre-treatment, but it did grow when we autoclaved the water. So there's a bit of a hypothesis, was that due to contamination that prevented this culture from growing, or actually from crashing. As you can see, it started off doing something, but then it crashed quite fast. Also, what we saw is that nitrogen and phosphorus seem to be sufficiently available. Phosphorus is on the boundary, so to say, of if it's sufficient or not. But that we do see that it might possibly additional micronutrients do give a better growth. Then we tested it also in slightly larger scale. So we used our 25-liter photobioreactors, the one that you see on the right, and we got a lot of wastewater from this was from Barramundi production, and we grew Nanochloropsis. And as you can see, the orange line is the control, so where the algae grew on a normal medium based on commercial fertilizers, and the blue one is where they grew on the wastewater from aquaculture. And especially in the beginning, the lines are very similar. They grow equally well. The algae in the fish wastewater stop growing a bit faster, and that is because there's less nutrients available than in our commercial system, but all in all, they're not, or they're still doing very well. And this also showed us that how much algae we can produce per liter of wastewater, and knowing how much wastewater there is being generated from aquaculture systems. So we can produce approximately 50 to 60 grams of microalgae per kilogram of fish produced. And that doesn't sound too much, but at the same time, there's now farms being built for the production of more than 30,000 tons of fish per year. That also means that you can produce more than 2,000 tons of microalgae per year, just based on the waste from that one fish farm. So that is significant amounts, especially when we think that current microalgae production in the world is around 40,000 tons. So you would directly contribute significantly. So that's definitely very interesting, but we also need to optimize the process further, and also together with other partners, we're looking into the legislative aspects of how and if this can be a commercial possibility. So that was definitely the aquaculture approach, but just to show a bit of the possibilities also to within a broader aspect of a circular economy. We also have been looking at other waste streams, for example, from food waste or from insect production, and in all these cases we see positive results, even though processes definitely have to be optimized further. And as already presented by the other presenters, also other waste streams from agriculture can be very interesting resources for the algae that then in turn can turn into products that could be used in either of these markets as well. So with that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and if there's any questions, happy to answer them later.
Thank you very much, Turinde. I can see in the chat an initial question from Mr. Gonzalez Camejo to Peter. So did you want to present your own question, or would you like me to read it?
I read it.
Thank you so much.
So if we actually can use those aqua feeds, the produced microalgae biomass as aqua feeds. We are testing the produced biomass for biopesticides that are used by the agricultural producer. The algae that we are using, Senedesmus and Coeliella, I think they are not yet free to use as aqua feeds. And we need to have an application to get them approved as a feed, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not an expert on this, I have to say, but when we can prove that the biomass is free of pesticides, and if we would produce algae that are already currently used as aqua feed ingredients, I don't think it's a problem that we use those streams. If we are defining the drain water not as a waste source, but just as a side stream that is going to be valorized. And to do that, it's the best if we grow the algae probably directly on site of the greenhouses, and this is now being implemented in the follow-up project realm that has been granted to Necton, and this is basically the bigger AlgaCycle where we really scale it up to large scale. But short answer, I think it's not a problem if we are ensuring that the biomass quality is free of toxins, which we are doing. I think it's for food products. There it might become a problem, but for feeds, I don't think so. But I'm not sure. Maybe Govinda also knows a bit better about this.
I definitely don't know the details, but what I know is that there's also quite some differences if you use it like by the neighboring party, or if you would like the ROS. For ROS water, it doesn't make so much sense, but just like hypothetically, if people would sell the ROS wastewater as a fertilizer product and then they would want to sell that all over Europe, that's a different thing than if you indeed have a neighboring algae farm that would use that as a nutrient source. So there's quite a difference in turning something into a commercial product and feeding it back to and that goes also for like cattle manure and providing that to your neighboring farm as a fertilizer for their crop, or selling cattle manure as a fertilizer all over Europe. Then you're suddenly turning into a different type of legislation. So there's definitely some challenges there, and then I think indeed what Peter also said, that showing or giving the quality is a very important aspect still.
Okay. I hope that question is more or less answered. I'm sorry, you're muted.
Thank you so much. We also have another question. It could be for Peter or for Dorinde. How do you prevent growing pathogens in the microalgae growth media that are coming from the RAS waters? I assume this would also apply in the case of aquaponics as well.
Maybe you start.
Yeah, for the RAS waters. Yeah, so we had one case where we saw that we needed, well, in this case we tested autoclaving, but I guess filtration would also work. But the experiment in the 25-liter reactors, it was really just directly on the water coming from the aquaculture systems, and we had 0 problems. We are still analyzing the bacterial growth and to see how many we had and what type of bacteria we had in the system.
At AlgaCycle project, we are using the water at the industrial production. We are treating it with sodium hypochlorite, and then we are adding after 24 hours of disinfection, because this will kill everything that was in the water. We're neutralizing the chemicals with teal sulfate. And that way we have sterilized water, and the contaminants that come during the cultivation, that's the same problem as in always in all the production. That's nothing different. So there will be always coming sooner or later contaminants into the culture, and then you just have to stop the cycle and apply mitigation strategies to fight these contaminants.
Thank you very much for those answers. Is there any more questions from our participants to any of the speakers today?
I would have one for Dorinde.
Sure.
I understand right that the salmon production is usually done offshore or in fjords. How you collect those waste products sales?
It depends. So a lot of the traditional systems are really open cages. So that's like net pens. So there you don't collect anything. But there's more and more developments of technologies that can collect at least part of the waste. So they're combined with the slightly more traditional systems. And there's a lot of research and development ongoing on further semi-closed or fully closed systems, and that's both with an idea that it should help collecting those waste streams, but it also is very important in the fact that salmon have a problem with lice infections, and so to prevent these lice from coming into your salmon farm. So let's say they close it off from the environment.
Thank you very much. Was there any other questions from any of our participants today? or any closing comments from our hosts?
Thank you all so much for being here.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for organizing.
Yeah, definitely, Danny.
So thank you all for participating today. I hope you found it very interesting. We've posted links to all of the projects in the chat if you'd like to come and interact with us some more. All of the project websites have contact details for the coordinators of those projects,